Hello, and thank you for joining the Champion Within podcast, your premier go-to spot for unlocking your winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete looking to elevate your game to the next level, a coach leading the charge, an enthusiastic parent cheering from the sidelines, or an educator molding young minds, the Champion Within podcast episodes are packed with value, sharing the tools and strategies to unlock your potential and rise to new heights. Hosted by mentor, coach, and mindset leader Kate McCauley. Let's sit back and enjoy today's episode while discovering your champion within. And now, here's Kate.
Welcome back to the Champion Within. Today, we are going to dive into a really powerful conversation. Selfishly, I'm excited to talk with this woman because I could just feel her vibe when I first met her. This is all about mindset, your movement, and your mission. Today's episode, it's extra special. We met at Women Rising Live. Monica Dominic was sitting across from me. There was an aisle in between. And let me tell you, I could just feel the vibe. When she was in that room, there was just a connection there. We really didn't get to talk too much because she was heading off to different places and it was a really impactful event. We were doing all kinds of things. She is just the type of person that I would describe as bold, brilliant, magnetic. So Monica is not only crushing it in the business world, she's also a competitive ballroom dancer, which I'm really excited to learn more about. It's really just something that I've been stalking and watching her online. I'm so excited she's here. She brings energy, confidence, and I'm going to probably guess some discipline into that ballroom dancing and everything that she does. I want you to get ready to be inspired by her story, from her professional life to the ballroom, and how she's using both of those to just show up in this world and empower other people. Monica, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great intro. I appreciate it. I also felt that energy from you when we were at that conference. It was a 2 or 3 day conference and there were a lot of ladies there and there were a couple that really stood out and you were one of them. So thank you for hosting me here. I'm thrilled to be here and to talk about everything today.
Well, thank you. And I would be really remiss if I didn't mention Karen Rockhind, who was running that event, Women Rising Live, because if it wasn't for her, we would have never been brought together. And I truly think it's important to mention people. So Shout out to you, Karen. So,
we love
and I know
Karen.
you've had Karen on your podcast and whatnot. She's epic as well in her own right. It's important that I throw that in there.
Indeed. And we get to celebrate women, right? Which what the whole conference was about. Let's lift each other up and support. So
100%. I would agree. So tell me a little bit about your professional world, and then we're going to walk on over to that ballroom area and hear about that, because I think that there's so much amazing things. I see it on Facebook. Some people are probably like, who's that chick that's randomly liking and saying stuff? And I really do enjoy seeing it. So we're going to get there, but tell my listeners what it is that you do in this world.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll first interject. We're not going to walk over to that side. We're going to cha-cha. We'll cha-cha over to that side.
I'm going to leave that one to you. I dance, but it's here in my office. I'm not sure if it's very choreographed. I mean, it doesn't
matter. Any body movement, any dance movement is beautiful to begin with. But thank you. Okay. Yes. So Monica Dominic, as you said, I am a co-owner of a company in Columbus, Ohio called PSI. We are an IT firm. So we do IT solution deliveries. We work with clients very large. Some of my clients are in the Fortune 10, Fortune 20, all the way to mid-size. But by mid-size, they still have to be pretty big. To be in my stratosphere or in the services that my company offers, you have to be about $100 million plus. So, some of the big boys are the companies that I tend to work with. But what we do is we work with these companies to fill their technology gaps. So if they have gaps on a big IT deployment that they're doing, or they're implementing a new ERP platform and their team is lacking, then we can come in and either fill the pieces by providing a singular person. So if you think of more like a traditional staffing, for
Mm.
technology. So they're usually longer term projects, but they're really high subject matter experts, high level of experience. But then we also have a team that comes in where we can do traditional statement of work. So if a client doesn't have the bandwidth to do an entire implementation, or perhaps they want to build a mobile app, my team can come in and we do it all from discovery. We'll plan it. We'll work with your team. We'll build everything. We'll implement it into your infrastructure, train your team on it, and then we bounce out. So I've been in that industry for about 13 years now, I believe. About 3 years ago, I bought the company. So
Amazing.
it was pretty cool. I had a business, or my business partner, I've been with the company 13 years. My business partner joined about 10 years ago, and collectively he and I brought the company to where it is now. We just, the then owner said, you know what, I want to sell. I want to get out. I want to retire. What do you guys think? So we thought it sounded pretty darn cool. So we
Wow.
decided to buy it. And that was about 3 years ago. So yeah. And then in addition to that, my whole career, my undergrad is in marketing. My master's is in marketing, but an area that I really tend to focus on is developing people and helping them get better.
Mm.
So I do a lot of keynote speaking around the globe. I'm fortunate enough to do that. And some of my favorites have been around women empowerment workshops and women's conferences. I'm a very active member and an active speaker in Women in Tech, or Get With It. So yeah, I just focus on getting women up to speed, and men too. You know, I'm not a hater. I
Sure.
do teach a lot of classes and a lot of keynotes on being heard, finding your voice, elevating yourself, critical communication skills in the workplace. And it's something that I have termed ferocious ambition, which is then also a name of my podcast, because I find success and find growth, true growth, is only happening when you let yourself fail and when you let yourself fall. And then how do you find your footing to get back up and get better? And I found that so many people only ever wanted to talk to me about, how did I become the owner of a multi-million-dollar company?
So true.
And
So
they never
true.
wanted to talk about all of the crap. Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Oh, 100% woman.
Okay.
100%.
All of the shit that I had to go through, all of the busted up knees that I had to get where I was. And it was those failures that brought me there. And nobody ever wanted to talk about that. So that's when I
Guess
said, I'm
what?
going to create the
You
podcast.
are in the right place, because I believe that failure is research. And if we don't allow ourselves to fail and navigate through, there's so many opportunities that you're missing. So many people quit right when that happens. And we need to learn from those successful stories, those people, the companies, the fitness journey, the ballroom dancing, whatever it is. We didn't get there riding a unicorn, floating down rainbows. There have been bumps in the road. It has been, I call the messy middle sometimes.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about that. You know, while we're here, why don't we just jump into it? Can you think of a moment professionally where you thought, what the hell? I can't believe this happened. I thought it was going to go way better. And you learned from it.
Oh my God, so many times. I can't even, yes is the short answer to that. I just did a podcast, I think it was last week. It was just a quick solo reflection where I wasn't interviewing because I wanted to talk about dealing with disappointment. It was something that I had dealt with just 2 weeks ago. A client that I had been working with and for and on for years, Kate. I think at this point, maybe 2.5 years. And we have put so much work and so much effort into defining what their outcome was and what they needed it to be. I thought we had uncovered every single potential pitfall that we could. And I was surprised when I got a phone call saying, sorry, we decided not to do this. And we're changing the direction. And so all of the work that we had put in for years was now for nothing. And that, talk about a
crushing.
Absolute crushing. And it was this mind fuck of like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And I poured all this effort into it. I poured resources into this, and I have a finite amount of time. You know, as a business owner, we have about 160 employees that are out there. That's a lot. And it's a lot of people that I'm responsible for, and a lot of families that I worry about. So it's not just my employees, but it's their spouses, it's their children.
It's a trickle down effect there.
Right. So I just get all of this in my head and I get into the fields of what could I have done differently? What did I do wrong? So just taking the moments of that and reframing them in my head and saying, all right, so this was a failure for this one thing, but what did I learn from this? Oh, and what I did learn from it was a whole new platform that I didn't know before. It was a whole new infrastructure with a different company that I didn't have the expertise in, and now I do. It was also a mind shift of I tend to be very trusting of everybody. And that's just my nature. And that will never change. No matter how many times somebody's going to do me wrong, I will always just choose to think positively and do right in my walk, at least. This is what I can do and what I can be. But it did teach me that I had to reframe my thought around how much time am I willing to give without knowing that there's a commitment of some ration at the other end. And then it was also telling and showing my employees and how to overcome objections and the adversity that we get, because some of my folks were working hand in hand with me, and it was showing them, hey guys, it's okay. It's okay. Like, you can go home at night and cry yourself to sleep if you need to, but this is just one blip. And trust me, when I brought the company from a $500,000 in the IT space to $15 million, you know how many times I was told no? Thousands. So this is just another no that's going to get us closer to the next yes. And we have to hear the no's to get to the yeses. So I tried to reframe my thought and what
there
are these
is
perspectives.
So much. Oh, I love all of this. I need to jump in so I don't miss my own thoughts right here. I want to pull so much of this apart. Numerous times you mentioned you had to reframe your own thoughts, reframe how you are going to go to the next opportunity, really reframe it for those who work for you. I think that this is such a powerful tool that we can keep in our back pocket, so to speak, for everyone. You don't have to be a big time business owner, a ballroom dancer. You don't have to have a podcast to do this. You need to be able to recognize that you need to reframe and then flip that script, because it is an absolute game changer when you can do that. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There's hard work involved. I heard someone actually say NO stands for next opportunity. Yep. When you were saying it, that person was jumping into my brain when you were saying this. No, I've had so many no's. What's happening next? And really what you do next matters most. You can decide to sit in it and say, I'm just going to sit in here and cry and be, in this shit for a little while. And you have to do that a little bit and say, like, what just happened to me? I'm not saying just push it down and ignore it. You do have to acknowledge and navigate through, but you can't sit in it. You have to move through it. I just feel like there's so many lessons for everyone listening. Yeah. And your journey might not be exactly like Monica's, but think of a time when it didn't work out, or you put so much work into something and then someone said, nope, this is not going to be, maybe it's a relationship, who knows? But there's so much growth that can happen there if you allow it.
If you allow it, and Kate, I think, one thing that my dad was a musician in his heart. He was a businessman, great businessman, but he was a musician in his heart. And I am always remembering he would always sing the Rolling Stones. And I asked him one time around business. I don't remember exactly. My father passed away like 16 years ago, but I remember asking him at one point, why does he like the Stones so much? And and I'm totally paraphrasing now, but he basically said, because you always have to be a Rolling Stone so the moss isn't growing on you. And it's something that has always lived with me of like, all right, this is a failure. I'm going to sit in it for a second, just like you said. I'm going to acknowledge my feelings. I'm going to then rationalize my feelings. Are they correct? Do I feel like a failure because I just failed at that, or they said no? Or do I take that as a learning lesson? And so many people, especially women in general, but so many people tend to internalize a rejection or internalize a no, thinking that it's a personal attack on them. And that's irrational, right? So then you got to get out of your own mind. You got to get out of your own way and say, I'm feeling these feelings. Are they rational? If not, let me reframe them so they can be rational feelings. What can I learn from this and how can I move on? So I can never be a mossy stone because I will always be rolling. You're always going to.
I love that from your dad. I'm going to steal it. I might put it up on my marker board here in my home office. I love it.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's simple but powerful. Mm-hmm. You're right. When we connect those emotions to things, we decide the meaning there. We can also change it. Mm-hmm. That's something that we are capable of if we decide to be that Rolling Stone, you have a choice to make
That's
there
right.
for those
That's
listening.
right.
I know you made that choice in that situation. Really cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. I also love that you are a speaker, that you're out in the world empowering other people. It's not surprising to me at all. As soon as I was even near you at that event, I could feel that energy and that vibe. I tend to pick up on that pretty quickly. And I knew right away that you were someone that can change a whole room.
Wow.
And you said that you get to talk with women and men too, but that you get to empower them in those spaces. What is the main message that you bring? I'm sure there's a lot of different messages, but what is the main one?
Yeah,
That
that's a
you
great
bring?
question. And it is a hard one for me because I am so fortunate enough that I've been asked to do so many different topics. I'll tell you, my most common requested one is called critical communication skills for women in the workplace. And then I have a whole one that's for people in the workplace. And I'm actually working on a book on that as well. And that talks about how you can so my biggest piece of advice, if I start it with a piece of advice and then I'll break it down just slightly, the biggest piece of advice is understanding that you, whether you are a woman, a man, or whatever you identify as, that you yourself are unique to anybody else in that room. And the way you hear a message is not the way somebody else heard it. Or the way you're interpreting the situation that you're in is 100% not the way somebody else has heard it or is interpreting it. So if you can get out of your own way to look at somebody else's personality, to lean into the way that their communication style is, and to not be convinced that your communication style is the right communication style, if you can get out of your own head and out of your own neurosis of believing that you're that amazing, and maybe you are that amazing, but to that other person or who you're trying to have that critical communication level with, whether it's your boss or colleague or somebody from a competitor that you need to combine forces with, you have to understand that there's different ways to communicate. So that is a big one. But then I think
a very powerful topic.
It's one of my favorites to do until I started on fear of failure. I was asked to be the opening keynote for Women in Tech conference, and there were about 1,000 women there and men too. And I led that one with Ferocious Ambition was the name of it, just like my podcast, but it was all about leaning into failure and not fearing failure. And Kate, the most interesting thing, this was about a year ago, I started by saying, who in this room has been fired? 4 hands went up.
Okay.
And I said, you guys are lying. Right. And then I started into let's talk about why you're scared to say you were fired. And you're in a room full of very high level women in technology, and men in technology are here supporting as well. You might be sitting next to your boss or your boss's boss or somebody really high level that you want to be.
I'm not putting my hand up.
Right. And they say they're not putting their hand up. So then I go down the whole thing, and me personally, Monica Dominic, I've been fired 3 times. And I went through every one of them and explained them, and then talked about how you learn from it. And ultimately, so you guys are scared of being fired? Look at me. If I wasn't fired 3 times, I would not be owning this company. I would not be on this stage talking to you. I would not be invited to global symposiums to talk to other people about the failure of that and learning from that. By the end of that meeting or that opening, I said, now how many people have been fired? And there were 100 plus hands that went up. It was look around, please look around. I don't care if you were fired as a burger flipper when you were 16 because you didn't do it right, or you were fired yesterday because of an inconsistency or some BS that the company could be having. But it's important to just recognize that failure is perfect. Failure is the only way you're going to grow. So I think that has now become a defining thing in every topic that I do, every podcast that I'm on, every interview that I'm given. It is around, let's talk about failure and how you have to have it. You've got to normalize failure. You have to normalize being fired, because how many people get fired and they sit in their feelings, they take it personally, they think it was about them. And then I turned to several clients too, Kate, and I've said, did you even like your job? Did it fulfill you?
And I didn't want to even be there.
They hated their job. So why are you mad? Why are you mad? You were giving less than not even half, but you were giving less of yourself because you did not want to be in that job. And instead of taking it on the chin and being forced to go find something that is going to light you up, you sat and you slowly disintegrated your soul. For what?
Do you find that the responses, or maybe this working with people, and it might take them a bit to get to this response, that they were comfortable?
Always.
Okay.
Always.
Yeah, that's what I find with the people I work with, and really anyone. It doesn't even have to just be fired. When you're talking about this, I'm thinking of athletes I work with that didn't make that epic tournament travel team, or even their high school team. Or I know an athlete that, went to the combine for the, NFL, and they're, running sprints, doing all the things. And then something happened, or they just didn't make the cut for whatever it is in life. You didn't get the role. This is an opportunity for you to grow. Now, do you give people in that situation, maybe it's not up on the keynote, or maybe if it's, deeper, if you're in a Q&A, a tip, a first step that you say? Because it's real easy for us to say, yeah, you got to fail. You got to let yourself do this. But how? What do you tell people?
Oh,
How
that's
do
a
you
good
say,
question.
let yourself?
Oh, well, it's a very deep question. And as you know, that there's unfortunately not a simple answer, right? Because it's got to start with something small. So now I can fail epically because I will try everything, because now I've been through the ringer and I know I'm not going to die. I'm not going to fail to a point where I'm not going to fail enough to lose my company. Like, there's not going to be those levels of failures, right? So I'm comfortable and confident enough in myself that I can jump really big and be comfortable that I'm going to land. It may not be pretty. It may not be a 10, but am I going to break a bone? Maybe, but what am I going to learn from it? So I would caution, if people are afraid of starting to fail, it's just testing your boundaries a little bit more. So if you are in a job that you feel is dead end, if you're in a position where you feel, not valued, that your opinion isn't being taken into consideration, I would first question yourself, are you happy there? And if you are happy, then you need to lean in and why you're feeling unfulfilled if you are happy. And that can start by asking for feedback. And I think that is something that a lot of people in the workplace, they don't do, because then they think that they're bringing, oh, I can't tell my boss that I feel unfulfilled in the workplace because then they're going to fire me. No, they're not. You got to tell your boss you're unfulfilled in the workplace and say, and here's the magic that I can bring to a company that you guys aren't tapping into. What can we do to bring my magic to your magic so we can be magical together? And unless you're willing to ask that question and listen to the feedback, and that means, what if you ask and you get an answer you don't like? And what if your boss is like, well, we kind of see that you're skipping this, or you're hosing on this, or you're not being intentional. You need to hear that feedback too and find what you can do better. So I would say, on one hand, it's that. On the other hand, if you're not risk adverse and you are miserable in your job, leave it. Leave it. And that's, talk about fear. Holy moly. To go, like, especially if you're supporting your family, or even just yourself, or your dog, or your turtle, for Pete's sake. It doesn't matter if you've got anybody else in your stratosphere. That's a scary, scary step to take. But
You're telling me,
you
are telling the woman who's done that 20 years in teaching. And
that's right.
Yeah, it's a story.
Right.
I love to just pull it all into one statement here. Let yourself reflect and ask for feedback. I think that is a great place to start. As you're saying, start small. You don't have to do all the things. You don't have to say, I have to go out and epically fail. Because when you do look at your company, big time people, you often hear stories of, this is what happened. This is why I didn't get this. This was my failure, my setback. We're inspired by it. And you hear, let yourself fail, start before you're ready. All these things, which I agree with all of them. It's scary for people. So when you say, and you just said it, start small, reflect. Are you happy? Yeah. Is this what you want to do? Are you doing the shoulds and the supposed to's, all of that? Or is this where you think you should be? And then if you are willing to take that risk, that's a big step. That might not be small for everyone. That's definitely not small for everyone. to take that risk. And if you're feeling and trust your gut that this is where you should be going, I say go for it. But
Go
it's
for
easy
it.
now to say
Right.
that because I cried a lot
Right.
when I did that. It's not just because someone took a risk and you think, well, I can't do that. It's not easy.
That's right.
It's
That's
not
right.
easy.
It's
So,
not an easy one. You're 100%
but
right.
worth it.
It is worth
Worth
it.
it.
I believe it was my business partner was in a board meeting, and then he asked me a question when he came back. And he said, I need to ask you a question, and I'm just going to listen. I need you to know that my activity is I'm going to listen to everything you say. And I want you to be very intentional, very purposeful, and very honest with your answer. And I said, great. What's the question? And he said, what is it like sitting across from me?
What a powerful question.
Right? And I sat there and I was like, wow, okay. In what capacity? And he was like, all of them. We ended up having like a 40-minute conversation where I was being truthful enough. And he said, I'm going to listen. I'm not going to get angry. Anything you say, I'm not going to try to defend or support. I'm just going to listen.
On the back, right?
Right. I'm just going to listen.
And what did he do with the feedback?
Well, the whole thing around it, the coach that was working with that board said, you need to listen to the feedback and internalize it. If somebody's saying you're frightening, I did not say that. He's amazing. But if somebody says you're frightening to sit across from, or I feel like I can't give you honest feedback, or I feel like I can't give you my open opinion because of what what you're going to say or how it's going to hurt you. I didn't say any of that to him, but those are a lot of the common answers that you would get. Or sometimes I feel like maybe you're not listening to me, or you're not hearing me, or I feel dismissed sometimes, or sometimes I feel really celebrated and I feel really loved, but I would really like it if you might give me whatever, so you just, whomever you're talking to, and he was challenged, the board, all of their board of directors were challenged to have that conversation with every major person in their life. So
I was going to ask that question next.
So his
because
wife,
it really depends.
That's right.
Who you ask. I say this all of the time to people who I work with one-to-one, or if I'm in a big keynote or wherever, if I'm talking at the Q&A after with people, we often go to people that will give us the answer we want to hear.
Absolutely.
So I was curious who that coach or that activity, what they were saying, because I did something similar. It was related to, I think, putting a new offer out for, I honestly, I don't even remember exactly what I was doing with it, but I remember the activity. They said to reach out to as many people as you could from different phases of your life and just say, what do you think I'm an expert in?
Oh.
And to hear that. And then the second follow-up, what scares you about me? Or, and for me, I actually, interestingly enough, as an educator, we constantly were receiving feedback, good, bad, ugly. We didn't really have a choice. And when I go into the corporate space and I talk about feedback, some people get scared and they want to run. At first, I had to adjust that for myself because I was constantly being evaluated and given feedback by either the administrators, the students were the most brutal ones, but the best ones often, and their parents, all kinds of people. Now, some feedback, you take it and you absorb it and say, how can I learn from this? Other feedback, you toss out the window. You have to be willing to acknowledge that. But I was curious who they went to. And
he did. He had to ask. So he asked me, he asked his mom, his son, his wife, and some business associates.
Very cool.
But I agree with everything you're saying. There is certain times, like I have a beautiful, beautiful circle of amazing girlfriends. And I know darn straight which one to go to if I need supported, and which one to go to if I need, the harsh reality of, girl, you stupid, get out of your own way. Or like, you need to rethink this. You're not doing the right thing.
We know what the person is going to say. Honestly, we probably know the answer to our own question and what what we want. We go to, I'm thinking the same thing. I have a group text with a group of female friends. I know which one to say, like, who wants to go out tomorrow night, or who's thinking we should totally skip this and not, you just know who's going to give you those answers. And it's
getting uncomfortable to finding or asking the person who you're most fearful of their answers. Maybe that's maybe Kate, maybe I'm rethinking, maybe that's a great first step for somebody who's scared and to go into the into the fear mode and leaning into failure, go ask somebody who you know is going to be brutally honest with you. And ask them what it's like to sit across the desk from you or to sit across from you. And ask them in all facets, whether it's work or business or both. You should have a friend who could likely give you an answer, a very truthful answer of what do you think it would be like working with me? And listen to what they say. And what is it like to be in a relationship with me?
When he had that exercise, or if you're suggesting for someone, once you get that feedback, I can tell you what I do with it, but I'm curious, what would you suggest? All right, we got the feedback now, or the active listener. We're not patting ourselves on the back or saying, what? That's not me. Who are you kidding? We're not. There's a TikTok trend, I think. My kids showed me it, and I'm like, we're not doing that. It's like something about you can say whatever, like no judgment. I'm losing the little line. It's really catchy. And it's like, no judgment. And they start saying things. And the mom's looking at the kid thinking, are you seriously? But he's saying, I don't really eat the breakfast that you make. I throw it out on the way to school. And, it's like, you can say anything, no judgment. And they're just like being honest with each other. It's not necessarily the feedback, but it's making me think of that. What do you do next? What are you telling the person? Because I think what you do next matters most. It's all good and great if I have feedback from someone, but if I don't do anything with it. So what do you tell the person? We got first step down. What do you do with that feedback?
Well, first you need to internalize it. So listen with an open heart. Listen that the person you just asked them, you're asking them, you're literally asking them to be honest. So allow them the space to be honest. Don't. So even starting before with what do you do with the feedback? What do you do currently when they're giving it to you is you listen, you open your ears and close your mouth.
Shut your mouth. Yeah,
that's right. You've got two ears and one mouth. So listen twice as much as you speak and just listen to what they're saying and internalize it. And then when they're done, thank them and keep asking again, what else? What else? What else? What else? Once you've asked what else 5 times, and if they've run out of things to say, now you can close it down and then internalize it. You need to look at it and really see what speaks to you. And not getting critical on yourself and not getting judgmental on yourself or on them. And just realize you're coming from, you asked them to deliver this in a place of love, right? So when you're reading this, you need to internalize this. This is not meant to be hurtful. So if I am disrespectful or disregarding when people are talking to me, if I don't appear to them, if maybe the feedback was, I don't feel like you listen. I feel like you ask me a question and then you're zoned out or you're on your phone or you're not intentional in hearing me or even listening to me. Then why am I here? Listen to that, and then try to internalize. If I made somebody feel that way, that is their feeling, right? So they're not lying to you. You need it the same way we say, I know you've said it and I've already said it now too, but we've said, those are your feelings. So you're entitled to those feelings. It's a rational feeling if you feel it. Nobody can tell you what not to feel. But in the same respect, you can't tell somebody that their feeling is irrelevant or isn't truthful.
Right.
So if you are making that person feel that way, then it's something you need to really just be intentional about. And then in that conversations or the next conversations to be mindful about, wait a minute, the feedback I got was that I was leaving the person feeling unheard or unvalued or their time or their opinion wasn't mattering because I was zoning out. So let me zone in. Let me be intentional to listen to your words and a good active listening. So here we go into, another keynote, but a good active listening thing is to repeat back to somebody. So when they're telling you a story, you can summarize it back to them and say, okay, Kate, I think that's a really great point. Let me just make sure I'm clarifying. So what I'm hearing you say is, and then I'm summarizing it back to you. That is a great way to show you, Kate, that I'm active listening to what you're saying. And then I always follow up and say, do you want me to share any of my opinions or would you just like me to listen? And ask.
I love it.
Because so many people just go into, well, let me tell you what I think. Well, girl, I don't want to know what you think. I just need a vent right now. So, okay, let's set that out, right? So those are just turning on that active listening, reading the feedback that you've been given with heart. Don't let it hurt your feelings. Just be very, very knowledgeable that the person you asked is trusted. So listen to what they said. And then does that mean that you have to change yourself fully? No, this isn't about changing you. This is about maybe understanding you a little bit better, understanding your communication style better, and understanding how you can elevate up and how you can level up.
What do championship teams, standout students, and elite companies all have in common? A trained mindset. The Champion Within programs aren't fluff. They're mental performance blueprints that build focus, resilience, confidence, and clarity when it counts. Now is the time to set this up. Not next season, not next quarter, now, when the pressure is real and the habits are forming. Whether you're on the field, the courts, in the classroom, or leading a boardroom, your people need transformation and mindset training. Let's partner. Let's co-create this. Let's build the mindset that fuels the next level. Schedule a quick call. Just go to the show notes after the podcast and use the link. Let's design the exact experience your people need because they already have the talent. Now we build the belief. I am obsessed with all of this little activity. It's really a big activity. I think that there are so many possibilities for all of my listeners here, educators, coaches, athletes. I actually mentioned something very similar to what you were talking about when I do what I call the village mentality talk after I am working with a group of high schoolers or younger. I do this. Their parents come in because developmentally, they do not give two shits about what their parents are saying, and it's appropriate. But when another voice comes in and tells them something, so I like to share with them. You said something about, do I need to take this advice? I tell them when you're letting your child talk, the last couple words, and FBI agents do this all the time, the last couple words of the sentence. Let's say, Monica, that you said to me, this was a terrible day. This was a terrible day or terrible day? The question, actively listening, you're paying attention. It's just like what you said, repeating. When you take that last string of words, especially the brain, they will vomit things to you. Literally, you will get so much information, and you can use this in a good way to get your kid to talk when you're meeting someone in a relationship. And then if it is that young kid or an older person, you said something along the lines with the advice, you need to say to them, do you want advice or do you just want to vent?
Yes.
Because a lot of times we need and want to vent. Yes. But the tricky part, you have to give it to them.
Yes.
You cannot say, I can fix this.
Right.
You probably can, or maybe you can't. But even if you think you can, if they say they don't want your advice, I just really need to vent, you have to give that to them.
I'm here to listen.
Yeah, so
and then you can always end that saying, thank you. Thank you so much, Kate, for just being open. Or if it's your son or your daughter, thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm hearing it. I listen. I'm not going to give any advice. If you ever want to talk about this again, I'm here to help. And then you just back away. You're going to reframe your the pre-cortex of their mind. You're going to rewire it. So now 100%. They're going to think, holy moly, mom just listened. Dad just listened. They didn't give the advice. Well, in the back of your mind, now you can go forward. 2 days later, you can bring up something around reframing a perspective or an opinion. And then a great way to also do it is to come up with a scenario. I'm not saying lie, right? And especially when it comes to that parenting thing. Now, I'm not saying lie, but reformat what it would be like and ask your kid for advice. Hey, hey, mom, 100%. Hey, son, can I ask you a question? I'm dealing with this. What do you think I should do? Because guarantee you, they're going to tell you what you were going to tell them, right? Because they know. You just need to get them out of their own head. You're making it about a different topic. Now we're really at the crux of critical communication skills, because now I know what your issue is. I know what your problem is. And if I want to try to help you identify it without being your solver, that's a way to do it. So now I'm regurgitating what you've done. I'm adding different names, different players. I'm making it look a little bit different. And guess what? They're going to answer.
100% they are. You nailed it. We could stay here all day, but I have so much that I want to talk to you about. And we're going to leave it on when your kid does that, or an adult, and you got to be authentic here. Thank them and say, oh, that was wonderful. Because when you say that, even if it's something small, you don't think it's that big of a thing. When you acknowledge, wow, that was really insightful, or thank you for sharing, and you insert the thing, they will then rewire their brain. That's neuroplasticity. They're creating new pathways. they will
That's right.
understand, and you have to be authentic. We're not, shoveling shit here.
That's right.
They have to understand that this was good, that thank you for sharing that. They'll do it again in
That's right.
different situations. So I no wonder why you're always asked to go off and do those keynotes,
Oh,
because you have so much to share there. I'm going to get people like telling me I rewound and took notes. That's
good.
so much. I love that. Thank you for all of that.
My pleasure.
Let's jump over to this ballroom dancing, because I watch it. You look phenomenal, and I am just in awe of the little clips that I see. Tell me, how did it start?
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll kind of move along of where you are now and what you're doing in
It's
that
my
world.
favorite thing in the planet. Okay, how did I get started? I was not a dancer growing up. I mean, I'll say I always had rhythm. My dad was a musician, so I was raised as a musician's daughter. I learned how to play the bass, the drums, the clarinet, the cello. I mean, you name it. And I was a singer. So I always had rhythm. I know musicality. I know music counts. But I was never really a dancer other than like, up in the club. Girl, I was always in the club, like jamming.
We
but
would have had
never...
a good time. So was I.
Correct. So 3 years ago, I was asked around this time, 3 years ago, I was asked to do a Dancing with the Stars for Columbus, because I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I was asked to be one of the celebrities. And I was paired with a professional dance instructor. His name was Colton. I love Colton. He's still one of my favorite people. And it was very similar to the show, only it was all around fundraising. We had 3 months to work together to develop a routine and to fundraise. And then it was culminated with a massive gala, 600 people. And there were 8 dancers, 8 stars that were partnered with a professional dance teacher. And just like the show, we each got out there and you had, your 3 minutes, and then you did your fundraising and you danced in front of everybody. So I quickly volunteered. Yes, I want to do this. I ended up winning.
No, wait a minute. You never danced professionally prior to this at all?
No,
Wow.
not let alone professionally, but I wasn't even in like tap
Talk about
jazz.
stepping in and, not being afraid to fail. I love this.
Yep. And I was like, not only I had zero fear of failing, period. I told everybody I'm going to win. And they were even like, okay. And I was like, no, I'm telling you, like, I'm going to win. I'm going to beat everybody. This is going to be the time of my life. Now, to win the mirror ball, and it is like this massive, giant, like 3-foot trophy with a mirror ball, just like the show. You had to also fundraise the most amount of dollars. But then there were different things like People's Choice, Judge's Choice. And then if you beat the highest fundraising record, then you got a different thing. And I won, I think, all of them, or like 3 out of the 4.
Of course you did.
Yeah. And I just had so much fun. But prior, I think about maybe 5 months prior, I had also just come off of several years of some major surgeries. I'm talking total hysterectomy. They took out half my colon. They took out my gallbladder, you name it. And my body was in a sense of trauma and inflammation and survival. So I had hit my highest weight ever. And started in January, I started getting serious with my fitness. It was a New Year's resolution. And I know some people don't like them, but I love them. And it was a New Year's resolution. And I said, I'm going to start getting healthy. And I lost about 30 pounds. And then I got invited to the Dancing with the Stars thing.
Oh, wow.
And then in doing that, I found, holy crap, I'm so obsessed with dance. And it was so much fun. And it helped me stay on my journey of getting healthier. And then the event happened and I won everything. And I had 100 people, 100 of the 600 people there, 100 people were there to support me. And they were at my tables. I think my husband and I bought like 10 tables and it was amazing. It was just amazing. And I came home that night and I was sobbing into my pillow. And I'm so fortunate enough to say I never have had to deal with depression or a lot of anxiety or anything like that. I'm so fortunate. So my husband was perplexed and he was like, why are you crying? I'm so confused. You literally won everything. Why are you crying? And I said, because it's over. And he said, no, we can keep buying you dance lessons. So I went to my best friend, Katie Tomba, love her. And she also is a ballroom dancer. And I said, what do I do? And she said, I'm going to introduce you to my dance partner. And she'd been dancing with him for 10 years at the time. His name is Aleko. And she said, you're going to come dance with him. You're going to meet him. So I went and met Aleko, and I walk into this beautiful, gorgeous ballroom, and there's this like beautiful, gorgeous Eastern European man from the Republic of Georgia who's a professional dancer. This is what he does for a living. And I'm like, I thought I was a dancer because I just came off of winning Dancing with the Stars. Girl, no, I did not know crap about dance. I knew how to have a performance piece, but there was a difference from, turning into Dancing with Aleko. And 2.5 years now, I've been dancing with him. We are fortunate enough to get to travel to the U.S. We've traveled to many fun places to compete in Pro-Am ballroom dance comps. The style that I do is called American Rhythm. It comes from Latin bass. So we've just traveled the country. I dance 6 hours a week with him. And that drives me to... I now lift. I lift very heavy. I'm 6 pounds away from being 100 pounds down. Yeah.
That is incredible. Yeah. Such a cool journey that you went into this thinking, okay, I'm going to do this contest. I'm going to win. You were already on a health journey, definitely. But this just took it to a whole new place. And it sounds like, and it looks like when I see you posting and sharing about it, that it's so much fun.
So much fun. It's the best thing I've ever done with my life. And I'll tell you, of course, there's a myriad of amazing health benefits that I'll experience from losing 100 pounds, but from gaining
beyond the
muscle.
Scale.
Yeah. But beyond the scale, though, the mental ability and acuity that I had to develop, and then, feet issues and knee issues, when you get your body moving, I don't care how much you weigh. If you get your body in motion, it'll stay in motion. And now my sweatshirt that I'm wearing today, for the listeners who are just listening, it says Just Dance, because that's what I do every day now, whether it's professionally with Aleko or whether it's just in my kitchen or my shower. It's about that body movement. So yeah, it's such a fun way. And I'll be honest too, as a business owner and as a boss girl, or whatever you want to call it, I have to make so many decisions all day long, every day. So when I get home, I'm in paralysis of decision making. When I step foot on that dance floor, my opinion does not matter. And I say that to every lady who's going to go dance. You cannot control what your partner does on the dance floor. It is your job to follow, period. So it is, if we have trained choreography, and if he does a different move, and sometimes he'll just switch one in there, and I look at him and he's like, it's not your job to question. It's your job to follow.
Oh, okay.
And like, I'm training you to know how to follow. And what a different mind switch that I had to then
say. That's such a release from being that boss babe, holding it down and dealing with all of the things that are going to happen, to letting someone else lead and take the reins there, because we need that in so many ways. It teaches us a lot there. I just love that you are now partnered up with him.
Yeah.
Is that typical for dancers? I'm not sure how this normally works. So you roll into a dance studio and your friend introduced you. Is it typical to say, now we are going to be partners? Or do you normally learn from someone like that and you have to go find someone who is your partner?
Fantastic question. You have to find your partner. You have to interview who's going to be the right fit for you. There are some tremendous dance instructors out there who maybe don't care as much about, I do things to win. You spend this much money and I spend this much time. It is not just to have fun social dancing. There is a whole category that you can do and go into your dance instructors or go into a studio, take group classes. They're a fraction of the cost, and you're just going to go have fun, and you're still going to learn how to move your body, and you're still going to learn to connect with the music, and you're still going to have all of those amazing benefits. But if you are like I am, where I am driven to, no, I'm going to spend this much time and energy. I want to win. I want to go on the stage. I want to compete against the best of the best in my division, my category, and I want to win. Then you have to have your instructor. They have to be that good too. And unfortunately, there's a lot of dance instructors out there who are really junior, or are, quite honestly, that I can outdance now. But you still respect them. So there's just a different student for them. So it's finding the right person. Luckily for me, Aleko happens to be one of the top Latin dance instructors, I would say, in the world. That's a bold statement, but that could just be because I love him so much and he's an incredible friend. But he is one of the best in a tri-state region, at least, or some of the best of the best. He's incredible at what he does. That would intimidate somebody who doesn't have my personality and my drive, right? So if somebody else wants to go start dancing, just go start. Go to the your local dance studio and find a teacher. And then if you start realizing that you love it a lot, or that it's starting to change your life and you want to level up, just recognize that, he might not be the right instructor, or she may not be the right instructor for you.
Yeah.
And to that, I
say
the same with a job. Like, at some point in any job or career, you need to level up. You've learned what you were supposed to do there, and now it's time for you to grow. I was just fortunate enough that Aleko, I could level up with him and I could go all the way up. There's not a level that I'll reach where he wouldn't be able to teach me, unless I wanted to go into a different style of dance than he doesn't. If he doesn't know that, then I would go. So it is all about you have to find somebody that fits you. And that's true. I would even say, even on my whole journey, my finding health and my weight loss journey, if you're into personal training, find the personal trainer that works for you. For me, in a personal training capacity, I need a drill sergeant. Because I will give you every excuse in the book. And look, I am really good at getting people to listen to me. So I will try to get you to believe me, sir. When you tell me I can't, or that I need to do these squat jumps, I will tell you I can't. Okay, I can, but that's not going to fit for everybody else, right? Somebody else needs a gentle, loving touch to get it. So you find what works for you. And I'll say that from dance, definitely, but business, health, fitness, nutrition, coaching, whatever it is, know that if you start on a path with somebody and they're not giving you what you need, go find somebody else who will. Unless, Kate, I'm going to interject, unless you went to that friend for the safe answer, if only then you can go to whoever you want. But if you're ready to challenge yourself, go find somebody that's your fit.
If you're willing to get out of your comfort zone, you want to see growth, you definitely have to be willing to say this is aligned or it isn't. I used to be the type of woman and person who would be a people pleaser. I'm a recovering people pleaser. And if I was in that type of situation, I actually had it happen recently with a functional nutritionist. This woman, she was much younger than me. We just did in a line. It was on Zoom. And right away, I got off the call, did some reflecting, and I said to myself, I have 6 free sessions with our insurance, whatever it was. I'm not going to spend time with this woman again. My husband, when I was telling him the story, because I can be aggressive, he said, are you being aggressive? When I have feedback, I receive that feedback, and I will also say to people, I know I can be aggressive. I'm working on it. I think it's important to take that feedback and tell others, you should know this about me. But I said to him, no, it's not me being aggressive. We just do not align. And then I found the perfect fit for me. But old version of me would have just stuck it out and did 5 more because I would feel bad for this young girl who's starting her nutritional whatever. But you have to do that for yourself if you want to see real growth and you don't want to be miserable.
That's right. And I mean, like you won't see change if you keep doing things the same, right? So if you keep doing things the same way that you've always done them, you're never going to see change.
Yeah, absolutely. And you owe it to yourself to feel good in that situation. If something feels off, trust yourself. There's a reason something feels off, and it's okay. I sent her a very nice message saying, thank you so much for your information. I just don't think it's aligned for me. She might not have received the feedback, but I was careful not to be aggressive. I took feedback that I know about myself, but I'm glad I did, because now the woman I'm working with is just aligned in so many ways. And in one call, not to, throw this woman under the bus too much, but on that first call, she actually said something to me of, I don't know if your brain can handle all of these things. I'm just going to talk about one breakfast and then we'll eventually move to lunch and dinners and snacks. And I said, honey, I manage the world of all 5 people in my house and all of the people I work with and love. I said, it's not going to hurt my brain. But she was coming from a place of love and kindness, thinking of other clients, I'm sure.
Sure.
but
Mm-mm.
I can't be in that situation. So anyway,
I wouldn't have used the word honey. For the record, I would have used another language word.
I'm in my healing era. If she had met me in 2021, it would have been. I often say to people now, you are welcome.
Yeah.
You are welcome, because we could have some stories about coming in hot.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure I was coming in a little hot for her, but I toned it down. But anyway, I love that about the dance journey for you. I think it's great advice, finding your right fit. I just was curious. I'm like, this aligns perfectly that you were,
It did.
in this lesson with him, and now you compete together. So you said a couple things about mindset and how moving your body, and I'm not even sure if you're aware of it, but when you were talking, you were actually moving a little bit, talking about, just get in your body, even if you're not competitive. So I could see it's who you are, which is awesome. I will say I dance before everything I do. I dance, but I definitely don't have it choreographed. Everything I do involves music and dance. Before I get on a podcast in the morning, my kids laugh about dishes and dancing. I'm always unloading, doing stuff. I'm dancing.
That's right.
I don't know if anyone would say I'm the winner, although I'm very competitive. If I went into a situation like you, I was laughing when you're like, I'm going to win this. I'm like, she's my kind of people. I know why I felt that vibe. But movement just is so good for you. Do it your way, whether it's competing or just let yourself move. If you're not comfortable dancing out in the middle of, the store, which I'll sometimes do. My teenagers love it when I do that. Do it in your room. Do it in the shower. Do a little dance on the way to school. If you're a kid,
here's the thing
bus.
too. I dance in the grocery store all the time, but I also dance in my car all the time. And here's a funny thing. And I have a convertible. So the top is down and I am jamming to the music. I am dancing my butt off the whole time. Do you know how many people who I've brought joy to because they're seeing me dance in my car? And then I'll turn and look at them and they're just smiling or they're laughing at me, and I just laugh with them. Like, they're not laughing at me. They're like, oh my God, look how much fun she's having. And I'm waving, or I'll go like, don't you love this song? And then they start car dancing with me, and then the light turns green and you go. So I think it's whatever. I love that you're moving your body, and I love that you're dancing. And that is, to me, just what it is all about. Can I share a story that I just feel the need to say?
Absolutely.
I think you're going to love this. So I want to share a story. Back in October, I had a crazy few days, and I was coming off of speaking at 2 different conferences, one in Columbus. The very next day I was up in Cleveland. And then I had to hop on a plane and go from Cleveland, flying in the evening. I think my flight was maybe at 4:00, and I was landing in Orlando where there was a big dance comp, and I had to start dancing that same night. So I had this wherewithal. I had bags of luggage with me because I had been popping all over the state and flying out of airports that weren't even mine. And in the hotel room, the day of the conference I was speaking at, I repacked everything. And then we were going on a week vacation straight from Orlando. So the amount of luggage I had was nuts. But I repacked and I thought, put your ballroom dance clothes in your carry-on. And when you do ballroom dancing, the hair and makeup is a whole thing. It's a whole industry for it. But you need to have all of the stuff. But something said, put your dance dresses for tonight's dance and tomorrow's dances and your shoes, put it in your carry-on. And I'm so glad I did. I made it to Orlando in plenty of time, but then there was a giant lightning storm and they grounded all of the baggage handlers. So we could get off the plane, but I couldn't get my luggage, and they said it would likely be until tomorrow, the next day, that I wouldn't get my luggage. So thank God I had my carry-on. I went to the hotel. I'd gotten an Uber, went to the hotel, and my dance instructor was already there. I changed really quick. And that morning at the conference, I thought in the hotel, do your face as if you were doing ballroom dancing tonight, because I was. So I went to the conference with full face makeup and big lashes. People were like, damn, girl, you're really dressed up.
They're like, hello.
Hello. So I made it. I put a dress on. I go down for the evening session it's called club nights or nightclub dancing. So I did that, and I still don't have my luggage. So now it's about midnight. I try to go to sleep. I have to be up. I found a hair and makeup person who could fit me in at 4 a.m. because I don't have any of my hair and makeup stuff because I can't get my luggage yet. I found a person. So I got about 3 hours of sleep, found a hair and makeup stylist to do me up. And then I get my dress on and I go down and you start what's called the single dances. So I had about maybe 20 different dances that I had to do. And I was completely effing up, Kate. I was missing steps. I was missing choreography. I was dancing like crap. And I was ranking. Right. I had maybe 7 competitors in my class with me, and I was ranking 5th or 6th. And that was devastating to me because I don't usually do that. I don't win all of the time because there's a tremendous dancers, but I'm always usually in that top 3. So then I had to go up to my hotel room, and I had about an hour and a half break before you enter in what's called the championship and the scholarship round. So that's where you do it for single dances. It's like, this is for practice almost. And then your big ones. So I went back to my hotel room. I still don't have my luggage, but I knew that all of that was playing in my head. I don't have my luggage. My hair and makeup is not the way that I wanted it to be. Thank God I have my dresses, but I was so in my head that I stripped everything off of my body, and I did a scream therapy in my pillow. I just was screaming it out. I was shaking out all of the negative energy. I was inhaling the positivity, exhaling the bullshit, and just I kept doing this. And then I went down, I stood up, and I started tapping from my feet, tapping all the way up to the top of my head, shaking out the negative energy, and then infiltrating like, you're going to do great. You're going to put all this energy in. You're going to do amazing. I changed dresses, changed all of my accessories, went down there and I placed second in every single division then. And I think I had 6 of them. I love this. Yeah. And it was all around that mentality shift. I could have stayed in that negativity of course, it's not working out the right way. I don't have my luggage. I didn't sleep much. I don't have many calories. My hair doesn't look the way I wanted it. My makeup looks like crap. But I didn't let that win. I said hell no. And I went back out there, and Aleko even looked at me halfway through when I took a break. We had a 20-minute break, and I just went to sit on a couch. He came around and he was like, do you need to talk? I was like, nope. He said, can I sit down with you? Nope. I'm in my head and I'm in a bad mood. And then that reflected onto the dance floor. Sure. So then when I went upstairs and I said, I changed my dress, but I changed my mind. And I said, I'm changing my mind that this is not going to bring me down, that losing my luggage, shit happens and to everybody. And this just happened to be the crappy cards that I was dealt at that moment. And I can either whine about it, and I can either cry in my beer or my wine or my bourbon, whatever. I can cry about it, or I can fucking change it. And I did. And I changed my whole mentality. I changed my mindset. I changed my mode. And when I went back down there, the judges, the competitors, everybody was like, who's she? Where'd this girl come from? Because this is not who danced this morning. And then Aleko looked at me and he was like, yeah, you're back. And then we could go celebrate. And then, then it was wonderful, but it's around that. So I just felt like I needed to share that story with you.
You actually read my mind. I was going to ask you a question. How to use mindset tools? It's like you knew what I was going to ask. I love so much of this. One, when you have these tools, know when to use them. And in this situation, you needed multiple tools to get yourself to where you needed to be. You have to be willing to say, something's off, but I can fix this. I've done this before. I use something with people. I say, if you want to win, you have to know what is needed. WIN. What is needed in this situation? Maybe it's a shakeout. Maybe it's a scream. Maybe it's breath work. Maybe it's a visualization. Maybe it's changing your outfit. There are so many different things that you could do in a situation like this. And listeners, you don't have to be a ballroom dancer, business athlete, whoever. You're in a shitty situation. You decide, am I going to sit in it?
That's right.
Or am I going to figure out WIN, what is needed? And
That's right.
I love that story so much. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing all that. I was sitting here thinking, I can't wait to hear what you
Where'd
did.
you
So
go? Well, and
yeah,
I'll tell you on a side note, and Aleko tells me I need to get over it. And I do. I know I do need to get over it. The
if he
person,
listens, she
Mhm,
knows, she knows.
I know Aleko, and he will listen. The person who I took second place to, so I came in second in all of those divisions. It's because she
Mhm.
shouldn't have been competing in my category. She should have been, she was in the next division up, and she actually did compete in the next division up and won that. So like she shouldn't have
Right.
even been in my category. So then I would have won, but whatever.
I need to ask you, and we don't have time to talk about all these things, but have you been an athlete in different areas beyond competitive? Okay,
Yes.
because clearly I'm like, she's my people, and there's no way this is the first time
Uh-uh.
she's competed. So what did you do? We're not going to
Yeah.
go into all the stories, but
Yeah.
what was your sport or what your movement love
Tennis.
was
I
in
was a
sport?
competitive
Tennis.
tennis player, and I grew
Okay.
up, my dad was unbelievable, best man I've ever known, but he was a tennis player, and then he got me into starting when I was maybe in fifth grade, maybe even younger. And then I
Mm,
started playing competitively for our country club, our,
okay.
all of the different clubs, and then high school and beyond. And I just kept
Right.
doing all of that. But my dad would wake me up. I distinctively remember, I think it was maybe seventh grade through 12th grade. Every morning at 5 a.m., my dad and I would go play tennis, and I would
Okay.
start every morning playing tennis with him. He was a grown man, and he was practicing with me his full serves, full.
That's how you get better. He
That's
can't
right.
go easy on
That's
you.
right. So then what happened when I got into high school and I started playing for the high school team, I was like, I ended up, I actually was playing worse because I was used to playing a really good player. So then you put
Mhm.
somebody in front of me who didn't know what the heck they were playing, or they were lobbing stuff over and it was real
Right.
lightweight. And here I am like cranking it over the net very fast and hard.
Right.
But so I played tennis, and then just anything. I'm a driven salesperson. That's what my
Right.
background is.
Of course.
So
That's yeah,
I'm
that's
right. I'm
it's who you
DNA'd to
are.
win. All I do is win, 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 no
I
matter
love
what.
it. I love it. You are the perfect guest for the champion within because everything you're talking about with business, and I really do believe that it doesn't have to be a high competitive level, but when you're involved in type of sport activity movement where there is a little bit of competition, whether it's a low level or, really high, like you're traveling for the ballroom dance line, it's different. It changes the
Yeah,
way your brain is wired, and you're able to do other things in business because you have done this before. Our brain doesn't turn off.
that's
People
right.
say to me all the time, "How are you doing this and that?" I'm like, "I was
How
an
are you not?
athlete. I am an athlete." Right. I'm like, really? Like, challenge accepted. It's just, and it's good and bad.
It is.
I have to
It
remember
is.
that for myself.
No,
But
my friends even
I had
joke.
to ask that question.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. And about 2 months ago, some friends had a party, and then somebody said, "Let's turn it into a chili cook-off." And my eyes, like, they go crazy red. And people are like, "No, man, don't ever tell Monica it's a playoff or like a cook-off, or like if there's
Right.
competition in it." Now it's driven me from, oh, if it was just a chili party and everybody brings a pot of their own chili, cool. Oh, now you're saying it's a chili
Right.
cook-off? And now there's a winner involved. Oh, please. I took 4 days to make this chili and
You're
like
like, get
hydrating
out
my
of the way. Yeah.
peppers and you name it. Yeah. I take
I know.
competition to the next
I
level.
am soul sisters. We are soul sisters. This is going to be the last story I share, and then I'm going to go to my last question, that signature question. My son, the youngest guy, has a uniquely beautiful brain. It's why I do a lot of the work I do now. In first grade, there's field day at his school. I'm a health and phys ed teacher at this time. Okay. I take the day off to go to field day to volunteer. He's in this relay event where they had to put on these big pair of pants, a shirt, like a hat, carry a ball or something. And he is taking his good old time, putting it on, and people are cheering, "Go, Ryan, let's go, Ryan." Now, because of his uniquely beautiful brain, I was doing some of the mindset work with him and saying, take a breath, slow down, focus on what you're doing, related to some of his school stuff. But I'm like, I'm sitting there on the side. I'm not volunteering for this event. I'm just kind of being a fan mom here. And I'm like, I can't even watch this.
Yeah.
I can't watch this, Ryan. Like, Ryan, put the pants on. Like, I didn't yell it. It was all I could do. And one of my friends who was a football coach, actually, he was there and he's like, you can't handle this, can you? I'm like, I'm barely standing here watching this because it's just the competitive nature of me. And at the end I said, oh, okay. How was field day? Oh, that was so fun. Remember when we had to put on all those big clothes and stuff? That was crazy. I was like, oh, that was crazy.
It was crazy.
That was definitely crazy. And he's telling people like, shh, I need to concentrate. Shh, don't cheer for me. Don't rush me. And I'm like, what? Like, who are you? But it's funny how it is really in our DNA. It's so funny. Yeah. I'm going to take us to our signature question. And before you leave, I do want you to tell people where they can follow you so they can check out some of this ballroom dancing stuff too. But if your life was a movie titled The Champion Within, the screen goes black and the audience is sitting there screaming for you to do something next, what are they going to be screaming? And they'll be hashtagging on all the social medias. This is what we want Monica to do. What is it?
They want me to win at a dance comp. It's going to fade to black with like trophies of, dancing the cha-cha in their head. No, I think that to me, it's going to be all around living authentically you. And for me, living authentically me is dancing. It's being one in my body. It's feeling healthy. It's being my own champion. So the champion within is me finding myself in just a really good place, mentally, physically, nutrition wise, lifting the heavy weights, dancing, wearing the dresses and the glitter everywhere, and just lighting up not only myself, but I'm huge on lighting up those around me. Even if you're sharing the competitive floor with me, I don't want you to not do well. I want you to go out there and do your best too. And if you fall, I'm going to pick you up. I will like stop my dancing to help you get on your feet if I need to. So that's what I think it would be. And my hashtags would be just dance, hashtag be yourself, hashtag find yourself. Maybe that's the big one.
I love this.
Hashtag
next
find
episode.
yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Or the sequel to this movie. I love it. And I think everybody is rooting for you in that audience because it's just oozing out of you that it is something that you love. So I'm all for it. Hashtag just dance.
Oh, yes. Just dance. Yes. And I'll say people to find me. I'm super easy. MonicaDominic.com is my website, and that'll link you to all of the socials. All my podcast is Ferocious Ambition. You can go to ferociousambition.com and it'll bring you to MonicaDominic.com. My IT company is PSI, so you can go to PSI92.com. So Paul Sam Igloo 92.com. And all of my socials are linked to my website, so you can find me there for any speaking, for any podcast stuff, for my dancing, just for life. If you just need a dose of let me help pick you up and just love on you too, it's one of my favorite things to do.
I love all of this. I feel like so many people are going to be tapping all those links. I'm going to put them right in the show notes for those who are listening. So get down there, have her come in and speak, watch the dancing. Maybe you're inspiring someone who wants to dance and they want to reach out to you about that. I just love so much of this. And as I said, we could talk forever. But
and I will say though, good. Let me just interject one last website.
Go for it.
For somebody who does want to learn how to dance, reach out to my guy, Dance Aleko, is his website, dancealeko.com. So his name is Aleko, Dance Aleko. And he's tremendous. So he can take anybody.
Now, is he just in your area or could he work with people?
Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing about competitive ballroom dance instructors is that they can travel to you. So he is in Columbus, Ohio. So if you're local or local-ish, then you can travel here. But if you are in New York City or if you are in New Orleans,
all my Philly people,
if you want him as an instructor, then there are plenty of instructors out there that will actually travel to you to be dancing with you. Now you're not going to see him, I see him 3 times a week, 2 hours
you
each
can't
time.
have him as much as she has him.
Right. But what happens though is that a lot of times in those situations, the pro will go out to you and then you might have one day a week or a month, one day a month where you're dancing for 6 hours and you're learning choreography and it's very intensive work. And then you get to meet in whatever state the comps are in, you can do that too. So there's plenty of ways that you can work with him. But
definitely send me that link and I'll put that right in there for people because I'm sure people are thinking right now, I might want to try to do that. Yeah. So that's really cool. I had actually no idea that they would travel and do that for you as the dance instructor. So Very, very cool. We'll happily promote him as well.
Sure.
So thank you so much for hanging out today. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and I am not surprised by all of the wonderful wisdom that you dropped. I appreciate it. And just keep killing it, girl. I'm excited for your journey ahead.
Well, Kate, and thank you. And I will say thank you for having a voice and using your voice to be loud. And you are changing so many people. And I've been lucky enough to listen to your podcast. And I love that you're reaching out to not just the adults, but that you're also tapping into the children and high schoolers and college and beyond. And you are a champion for others. So I just appreciate you using your voice so openly to help everybody.
Thank you for saying that. I truly appreciate that. And I receive that, as Karen would say to all of us. Yes, say it, sister. So true. All right, champions, thank you for hanging out with us today. Make sure you go down to those show notes, connect with Monica, bring her in to speak, get your dance on, #JustDance. So go out there and crush your week.
Thank you for hanging out with Kate today. And whether you're going to coach, teach, cheer from the sidelines, or hitting the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show for the latest episodes, as we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and sanity in our busy lives. Now, go and unleash your champion within you, one step at a time. We're always rooting for you.